All right, I'm going to talk about in detail the code for very basic event handling app in Android. And here's this dumb app. The user clicks on the click me button, and it basically counts and shows how many times it's been clicked. All right, so that's almost the most basic thing event handling app you could have. Here's the code, and click count activity extends activity. So it's a special kind of activity. Java extends is its subclassing keyword, right? So click count activity takes on everything the activity has. It can do its own things. Okay, and I'll talk about the listener and the actual behavior in the next video. But in this one, I just want to tell you about how to basically set up your app to do some things. The first thing that we typically do is we declare some data members for all our user interface objects. Our user interface is defined, in a user interface builder. And I had a button and a text view, and those have IDs, and those are all defined within this main.xml. Okay, when we get to Java, we need to get Java variables that kind of map to those user interface objects defined in the XML, and I'll show you how that does. So the one thing we do need to do is this activity class. It's basically for all Android screens, and it has an onCreate method which gets called when the screen is first created. And what we want to do is override that method, because we want to do our own special stuff, which in this case is going to be create our user interface variables. Okay, so a couple things, Java things. One is this annotation, this ampersand override. Always do this when you're going to override a method. It's nice because it will do syntax checking for you, right? You want to override the onCreate method in activity, but if you got a parameter wrong or you misspelled the method name, it wouldn't tell you, because it would just think you're creating a different kind of method, a new method for your class. But if you put this annotation in, not only does it kind of make it clear to readers that it's an override, it will also give you a warning if you somehow mess up the signature. So anyway, I always use the annotation for override. So what we're going to do is, we're not even really overwriting, we're really extending. So what we do in onCreate is we first call the parents method onCreate, and super is the Java keyword for the superclass, in this case the class activity. It's got its own onCreate method. We're calling it, and we're basically saying you do what you usually do, and then when you get done, I'll do my kind of custom stuff for my class click count activity. So activity does some bookkeeping in its onCreate, and what we're going to do in click count activity onCreate is do some extra stuff. The first thing we do is this set content view, and it's a method that basically does the initial mapping from the XML file, okay, r.layout.main, and it says take those user interface objects and draw them on the screen. So the initial drawing happens because of this call right here. It says, yeah, we're using the user interface defined by this XML file. Set that as my view. Okay, so that's the initial mapping. Now R is a special auto-generated class, okay, and that class basically just maps from resources, including the layout, the XML, to Java. So we're going to use R a lot to go from those two different worlds. Okay, the kind of specific mapping we do is we need to take our user interface variables, the ones we created for Java, and we need to instantiate them. We don't just want to create new ones. What we want to do is use this special function called find view by ID. And that thing takes an ID, okay, and we can go to our R class to get the ID of the interface object. And it just maps. It says, for that ID, give me a Java object of type button and let me then use it. Then I can do stuff with that guy. We do the same thing with result text view. Now we have two Java variables that map to our two user interface objects defined in the XML. Okay, so we've got that mapping. Now we can do stuff with the variables. We can go on and actually make some things happen on the click, and I'll show you the whole behavior, how we do the code in the next video.